Winter travel changes small decisions. Where you stop, how long you wait, whether you trust the road ahead of you or the place behind you. The people in these stories thought they were dealing with delays. They thought the worst thing that could happen was getting stuck. They were wrong. Marcus lived in Des Moines, Iowa, and had spent nearly 8 years working regional delivery routes that cut across Iowa and into Nebraska. Winter driving had never scared him. Snowstorms were routine. Delays were expected. Most of the time, the road felt predictable, even when the weather wasn't. The night this happened, he was heading west on Interstate 80, planning to finish 2 final deliveries before turning back. Snow had been forecasted, but nothing severe. Just another late shift through familiar terrain. For the first hour, everything felt normal. Then the snow thickened. Radio stations faded in and out, cutting mid-sentence before snapping back in fragments. The world beyond his headlights started to feel muted, unfinished, like the road hadn't fully loaded yet. The usual landmarks disappeared under drifting snow, and Marcus realized he hadn't passed another car in several miles. He told himself it was just the storm. Still, the road felt narrower than it should have. When Marcus passed Adair County, visibility dropped sharply. Snow erased the shoulder lines completely, and the darkness beyond them felt closer than usual. He slowed without thinking, aware of the quiet tension that comes from not being able to see far enough ahead to plan. A sign emerged through the snowfall. Gas. 1 mile. Marcus didn't remember seeing that station on previous drives, but he took the exit anyway. Low fuel and worsening weather made the decision for him. The gas station sat alone beside the road. No town, no nearby houses. Just a single building, a small convenience store, and one pump island lit by flickering fluorescent lights. Flat farmland stretched out behind it, disappearing into darkness so complete it didn't look natural. One SUV was parked near the air pump. Its engine was off. Marcus assumed the driver was inside. Inside, the station felt warmer but not comforting. The air was damp and stale, carrying the faint smell of old coffee mixed with something metallic. The shelves were half-stocked, but everything looked untouched, like items had been placed there and then forgotten. Behind the counter stood a man in a gray hoodie, scrolling on his phone. He didn't greet Marcus. Marcus asked if the interstate was expected to close. The man shrugged, not looking up. Depends how bad it gets. Marcus asked if people usually stopped there during storms. The man paused before answering. He glanced toward the window, then back at Marcus. Sometimes they don't have a choice. Outside, Marcus noticed something odd about the SUV. Snow covered the hood, roof, and mirrors completely, but the windshield was clear. No frost, no buildup, as if someone had wiped it recently. Marcus told himself the engine heat must have done it. Still, he stepped closer and tested the driver's side handle. Unlocked. The station door opened behind him. "You shouldn't touch that," the man said calmly. Marcus apologized immediately, explaining he thought it was abandoned. The man didn't seem angry. He just watched Marcus for a moment longer than felt normal, his expression unreadable before stepping back inside. Snow intensified quickly after that. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Marcus decided to wait until conditions improved. Time inside the station felt wrong. The heater kicked on, then off, then on again. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder than before, and the clock above the counter seemed to hesitate between minutes. Marcus checked his phone. No signal. When he looked again, he wasn't sure how long he'd been standing there. At some point, the man flipped the sign to closed and locked the door. Marcus asked why. "It keeps things predictable," the man replied. Marcus didn't know what that meant, but he didn't ask. The power flickered once, Then the knocking started. 3 soft taps against the glass. Not loud, not urgent. A figure stood under the awning facing away from the door. Snow clung to its shoulders, but it didn't seem bothered by the cold. Marcus stepped closer. "Don't," the man said quietly. Marcus asked who it was. "Someone who waited too long," the man replied. The figure knocked again, then stepped off the concrete and into the snow. There were no footprints. By morning, the storm had passed. The road reopened. Marcus left without speaking to the man again. The SUV was gone. Weeks later, curiosity got the better of him. Marcus searched for the station online. The reviews were sparse, spread out over years, but a pattern emerged. Multiple people mentioned being told to wait inside during storms. Some complained about lost time. One review simply read, "Don't stop there when the weather turns." Marcus still drives Interstate 80. He just never stops when the snow begins to fall. Some places don't close when the storm comes, they close when you do. Winter roads don't always stop you. Sometimes they make it harder to tell when you should. Liam lived in Columbus, Ohio, and every December made the same drive to visit family in eastern Kentucky. To avoid highways clogged with holiday traffic, he often cut through West Virginia, taking Route 33, a 2-lane road that wound through wooded hills, small towns, and long stretches without cell service. He'd driven it enough times to know where the curves tightened and where the road dipped suddenly without warning. The night this happened, snow wasn't supposed to be heavy. By the time Liam passed Harmon, that forecast no longer mattered. Snow began falling faster than expected, thick flakes catching in his headlights and erasing depth perception. The trees on either side of the road pressed closer than they should have, their branches bending inward under the weight of snow. Liam slowed down. There were no other cars. That wasn't unusual at first. It was late, and most people avoided Route 33 in winter if they could. Still, the quiet stretched longer than it should have. He told himself it was just the weather. Several miles later, Liam pulled into a small roadside rest area to clear snow from his windshield. The lot was mostly empty, save for a single sedan parked at the far edge. Its headlights were on. The engine was running. No one was inside. The rest area building was closed, lights off, doors locked. Snow had already begun to pile up around the sedan's tires, but the exhaust pipe remained clear. Liam hesitated, unsure why he felt like leaving immediately would be rude or dangerous. After a minute, he returned to his car and pulled back onto the road. The sedan followed. Not aggressively, not closely, just far enough back to stay present. At first, Liam dismissed it. Route 33 didn't offer many alternatives, and the other driver was probably just heading the same direction. But the longer it continued, the harder that explanation became to accept. When Liam slowed for a curve, the sedan slowed with him. When he sped up slightly, the distance between them stayed the same. He checked his mirrors more often than necessary, watching the headlights rise and fall behind him through the hills. After nearly 20 minutes, the headlights vanished. No turn signal, no side road, just gone. Relief came too quickly. Liam laughed once quietly at himself. He told himself he'd been reading too much into nothing. The storm had probably forced the other driver to turn back. He drove another 30 miles without incident before pulling into a gas station in Elkins, West Virginia. As he stepped out of his car, he noticed something on the rear bumper. A single handprint. Clean. Perfect. Pressed firmly into fresh snow. There were no smear marks, no drag lines. Just the impression of a palm and fingers, as if someone had placed their hand there and lifted it away carefully. Liam stood there longer than he meant to. Inside the station, he tried not to look at the windows. He paid quickly, keeping his keys clenched in his hand. When he returned to his car, his driver's side mirror had been folded inward. He hadn't touched it. The mirror wasn't broken, just moved. Liam drove the rest of the way without stopping again. That night, sleep came in fragments. Every sound outside his house felt closer than it should have. When he finally slept, he dreamed of headlights that never closed the distance, always there, always watching. For weeks afterward, Liam checked his mirrors obsessively. Headlights behind him triggered the same tension in his chest, even on busy roads in daylight. He avoided Route 33 entirely. He says it wasn't the handprint that scared him most. It was the realization that whoever followed him knew exactly when to disappear. Being alone on the road is unsettling. Being unable to leave is worse. Rachel lived in Brooklyn, New York, and every December took the same overnight bus north to visit family near Syracuse. She'd been making the trip for years. The route never changed. The stops were familiar. Most of the time, she slept through the worst parts of it. The night this happened, she boarded the bus expecting more of the same. Snow had started falling earlier than expected, but no warnings had been issued. The driver didn't mention delays. Passengers settled in quietly, coats piled on laps, phones glowing briefly before screens went dark. The bus merged onto Interstate 81 just after midnight. For the first hour, nothing felt wrong. Then traffic slowed. The bus crept forward in short bursts before stopping again. Snow thickened quickly, swirling sideways in the headlights of vehicles ahead. Rachel noticed the driver checking his mirrors more often than usual. Eventually, the bus stopped completely. The engine shut off. The driver stood and told everyone to remain seated until plows arrived. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The heating system clicked on and off, struggling to keep up. Conversations died down. The bus interior grew quiet in a way that felt heavier than sleep. Rachel checked her phone. No signal. She wasn't sure how much time passed before she noticed footprints outside. They appeared along the right side of the bus, partially filled with drifting snow. Heavy boots, evenly spaced. They moved slowly along the length of the bus, stopping near the emergency exit window. Then they stopped. Someone a few rows ahead whispered that they saw a figure standing just beyond the snow. Rachel leaned closer to the glass. Visibility was poor, but she could make out a darker shape where the snow seemed to bend around something solid. A soft thud pressed against the emergency exit window. Not a knock, pressure. A hand rested flat against the glass. Still. The driver shouted for everyone to stay seated. No one moved. The hand remained there longer than felt natural before slowly pulling away. The footprints moved again, then stopped. Rachel noticed something else. A second set of footprints was forming, smaller, approaching from the opposite direction. The two sets stopped directly across from each other, both facing the bus. Someone near the back began to cry quietly. The bus rocked once, then again, not violently, just enough to be noticed. The driver started the engine briefly, then shut it off again. He didn't explain why. Hours passed, or at least it felt like hours. Snow continued to fall, but the world outside the bus looked frozen in place, as if time beyond the windows had slowed. Eventually, headlights appeared in the distance. Plows, state troopers. The bus was escorted off the highway. No footprints remained. Later that night, while passengers disembarked at a rest stop, Rachel noticed the emergency exit window. A faint hand-shaped fog mark lingered on the inside of the glass, as if pressure had been applied from both sides at the same time. Rachel didn't sleep that night. In the weeks that followed, she avoided windows whenever it snowed. Reflections felt wrong. Glass felt thinner than it should have. She still takes that bus every December. She just never sits near the windows anymore. And when the bus stops in the snow, she keeps her eyes forward. because whatever was outside that night didn't need the door opened. Winter doesn't make people vulnerable. It just shows